Hey guys, Nick here. Today we're going to go through the if function and how to use it and implement it, right? So the if function basically runs a test and then it will output a value based on whether the test is true, whether the outcome of the test is true or the outcome of the test is false, right? So let's look at it in an example, right? So let's say you have this order table where you basically have sales dollars and units sold by date and customer number and category, right? So let's say you're working with this data table and you notice that there's a bunch of variability, right, in the sales dollars. So for some transactions you have sales as high as 1639, 1642, but for other transactions you have sales as low as $94, $65, where's another one, $267. So basically there's a lot of variability in what the sales level is, right? So based on this, let's say your manager says, hey, let's break up these orders into two groups, right? Let's say one group is for the transactions that had big sales dollars attached to them, and the other group is for transactions that had little sales dollars attached to them, right? So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to look at our sales value, and if the sales value, right, is above a certain threshold, then we're going to say that's a big transaction, right? And if the sales value is below that threshold, then we're going to say it's a small transaction. So basically we're going to run one test and then there's two outcomes to it. That's when we use the if function, right? So to figure out the threshold or the test, let's look at a scatter and see if a scatter plot will give us some indication as far as groupings, right? So if we put together a quick scatter plot, looks like everything is pretty random, right? There doesn't seem to be like two specific groupings, like a group where it's very heavily concentrated towards heavy sales and one heavily concentrated towards lower value sales. It looks like there's everything in between, right? So given that, let's just make up a number, and let's say we call 600, right? Let's say we call 600 as our threshold. Let's say anything above $600 in sales is a big transaction, and everything below $600 in sales is a little transaction, right? So let's move this off to the side for a bit. Let's write our rules up here, right? Big transaction is greater than $600 in sales, right? And then a small transaction is less than or equal to $600, right? So these are the test. Will figure out which of these two buckets the outcome lands in, and it'll give a result based on that, right? So let me show you. Let's say transaction size, right, is our new column, and we're going to say if, open parentheses, first is our test, right? So we want to look at the sales value. If this value is greater than 600, right? If our sales is greater than 600, then comma, then label that as a big transaction, right? You got to put the text in quote marks. If not, if the sales value isn't greater than 600, then it's a small transaction, right? And then you just close your parentheses. So that's your if function. It's saying do this test, right? Run this test. If the value is true, give me this. If the value is false, give me this. So if your sales is greater than $600, I want to consider that a big transaction, so label the row as a big transaction. If the sales is not greater than $600, then I want to label that as a small transaction, right? So here, for this row, this sale, we know the sales dollar is $16.42, which is greater than 600. So when I hit enter, we should see big transaction populate the cell. Ready? So let's give it a go. And that's right. So for the next row, 637, we know this should be a big transaction. 782 should be big. So let's copy this over. Let's paste it. There we go. Big transaction. That lines up. Big transaction. That lines up. So now let's look for a value below $600 or equal to it. So this sale right here is $595, right? So if we paste the if formula into here, we should see the small transaction pop up here, right? Because this sales value is less than or equal to $600. So let's see. I'll control V. Look at that small transaction. Okay, another one. 94 and 412. These two should show small transaction. So let's paste the formula, and that's right on the money. So if we copy this formula all the way down to the entire data table, then we have every sale group or identified as either a big transaction or a small transaction. So then what we can do is further analyze based on the transaction size. So in my case, I want to sort A to Z, so all the big transactions together, right? And then all the small transactions together, right? And that's how I'm going to break out my two groupings. I did that with a simple if function. So to recap, the if function runs a test, and then if that test outcome is true, it'll provide one value. If the test outcome is false, it'll provide another value. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the if function. Let me know if you have any questions or if anything is unclear. Just leave it in the comments. If you liked the video, if you found it useful, don't forget to share it, hit that like button, and I'll catch you on the next one.